Happy Monday, 49ers faithful. I am so excited to tell you that we have some great news on multiple fronts. I'm pumped to share it with you right now. If you're new here, I'm Nate talking San Francisco 49ers, and it really helps me out if you would tap that subscribe button for me. The first piece of good news is this: Brock Purdy was named in the top 25 young player rankings in the NFL right now. The news extends, however, beyond the surface, so stick around to get all of that. There's a second piece of good news later on in the video. You'll want to stick around for that as well. But firstly, the Pro Football Focus named 25 players under 25 entering the 2024 season. And man, I'm pretty hyped on this. Firstly, here's Purdy. Brock Purdy named number 8, which in a way you could say, don't love that. That's kind of bad news, I suppose. But nah, man, I'm going to say that this is good news. I'm not going to quibble over the number 8 spot. I think it's overall super positive, and I'll tell you why in a minute here. But first, I want to say that this Pro Football Focus article is actually really important because the young players, the young talents that are listed in the top 25 are the types of players that they can become the bedrock of the future great teams, or maybe even right now are already becoming a bedrock or are a bedrock for a great team. So I think this is fantastic news. I'm stoked about it. But let's talk first. Okay, so Brock Purdy's maybe snubbed, if you will, at number 8. I don't know. There's a couple quarterbacks that go ahead of him. We'll talk about it in a minute. But overall, this is the only guy on the 49ers roster that shows up in the young player top 25. I'm okay with that. I can live with that. But it definitely speaks a little bit to what everyone's been saying about the 49ers and this being their last dance. And one of the reasons that people say this is the last dance, at least for this core group, is because of age. Several older guys on the 49ers roster right now, and then several other guys who need to get paid. But let's take a look now at the number of teams that are not on there, or at least the ones that are, and you can do the math later. But division rivals Seattle and Arizona are not on this list. They don't have any of the top 25 young players. That's not entirely surprising to you. Kyler Murray is just a little bit older than that. What would you say, under 25? So 24? Yeah. Then you have, let's see here, Rams are on there. They have Puka, but that's it, just Puka. Then you have Kansas City has a cornerback. Cowboys has an offensive lineman. Eagles have an interior defensive tackle. Buffalo has an edge rusher, and Miami has a safety. In terms of the notable teams that kind of matter to us, either this season or in general, all of those teams I just mentioned only have one player on that list, just like us, and that's cool. And when you think about it in comparison in terms of the position players, right? Kansas City has a cornerback. Cowboys have an offensive lineman. That's a big one. You can build a lot around one great offensive lineman. Defensive tackle, you can also build around that. Edge rusher, you can build around that. Sure, safety, same thing for Miami. But overall, I feel like if you want any position on that top 25 list, that position is quarterback. You want quarterback to be on that top 5 list. So if we just search up QB, and we have to hop through here. So Trevor Lawrence comes in first on that quarterback rating, coming in at number 3 in terms of top 25 young players. Then you have CJ Stroud from the Texans. And then, of course, Brock Purdy. That's it. Only 3 young quarterbacks listed as top 25 young players coming into the season. I love that stat. I love that. There's only 3 of them on there, and one of them is our guy. And even of those guys, I mean, I'm just going to say, Brock Purdy I'm most excited about, but of course I'm biased, so I'll move on from that. And I want to also have a little disclaimer here to say, I understand that guys like Mahomes have a lot of miles left on the tires. I'm not trying to say that these 3 guys are going to lead the league for the next decade or something like that. But as you're building a team, you obviously love to have a younger guy coming in this top 25 young players list for sure, right? And we have a lot of time to build around our guy, and it could be a really special couple of runs we could create with this quarterback and the team we can get around him over the next decade and a half, right? Moving on, though, there are some teams on there. If you're looking for some bad news, those naysayers out there are some teams on there that are absolutely slaying. I mean, look at the Detroit Lions. Okay, Detroit Lions, and I got to go back to the top here. So coming in at number 1, number 6, number 11. These are all names you know and recognize. These are not nobodies, right? Boom. All right. All of these guys here on the top 25 list, they hit there 5 times. 5 out of the top 25. That is insane to me. I actually sent this to my buddies over at Sports Talk Detroit because I was like, you guys got to talk about this. This is insane. And then you look at like the second placed team with the most number of players on here would be the Houston Texans with 3. And those 2 teams combined comprise 8, obviously, 5 plus 3. I know a little bit of math. And every other team listed in the top 25 has 2 or less. Many teams not listed, as I mentioned earlier, and then several teams with just 1. So pretty wild for the Detroit Lions to get 5 on that list. That is a little scary going into the this upcoming season here. Kind of just knowing how it's been in the past, but we're going to be all right, guys. We're going to be all right. Sometimes age is not everything, right? Moving forward, let's see here. Houston Texans have 3, Jets have a couple, Ravens have a couple, Falcons have a couple, and that's it. Everybody else only has 1 or none, which leads into today's question of the day. Today's question of the day: where do you rate Brock Purdy among these 3 quarterbacks? So Trevor Lawrence comes up first on the list. Has yet to become what the Jags are hoping for, but that's not to say he's not an incredible talent, because he for sure is. He has a heck of a lot of talent. He's shown over multiple seasons that with the right pieces, he's a real contender, but the Jags haven't yet won a game in the postseason under Trevor Lawrence or with Trevor Lawrence. So there's still something to be said in terms of questioning his ability in that regard. CJ Stroud, I understand the arguments there. He had a fantastic season, or second half of the season at least, and I can understand why people are really excited about him. I don't think I would put him above Brock Purdy personally, but I do understand why people make that argument in terms of his abilities. That being said, he also has yet to prove it in the postseason, right? I think I'm right on that. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong on that. I don't think they did anything in the postseason, but now my memory, it's been a few months. Brock Purdy, for me, however, has shown he can sling it in the postseason, and he still hasn't had a full offseason yet. So I'm excited to see how it goes. Again, as I've mentioned on this channel, I'm not expecting Brock Purdy's numbers to go up drastically. I'm not expecting to see him go to like a 5,000-yard throwing season, but I am expecting in terms of decision-making, maturity, level-headedness. He's already a very level-headed quarterback. I am expecting him to see him be a little more stout in some of those tougher, nastier games potentially. That being said, I mean, we are so fortunate to have Brock Purdy as our quarterback. I'm so excited for this upcoming season after having a full offseason, being fully rested, really resting that elbow outside of throwing the first pitch. Wasn't in the strike zone, but he threw a first pitch in that Giants game. And I'm totally biased. I think the order for me would be Purdy, Stroud, Lawrence. I think Stroud just because of potential, but Purdy, Stroud, Lawrence is my order. Let me know what you think in the comment section, how you would order that. But the other piece of good news that the 49ers got, I'll just hit it as fast as I can here, is Charvarius Ward expects to be ready for training camp. How exciting is that? The 49ers cornerback said on Monday, I'm almost at 100%. Ward told the Up and Adams show via 49ers web zone, I'll be ready for training camp for sure. I'm still rehabbing, Ward told K Adams, so I'm trying to get back up to running full speed and everything, but I feel good. I feel way better than it did a couple months ago. Even at the end of last season, I was hurting pretty bad. My back, groin, abdomen was hurting pretty bad, but I fought through it. Ward finished last season with 72 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, a career high 5 interceptions, and a touchdown. He earned Pro Bowl and second-team All-Pro honors. I just got to say, I do feel like the national media does not love Charvarius Ward as much as 49ers faithful do. I love this guy. I really do. I highly rate this guy. I think I rate him higher than most people. I'm a big Charvarius Ward fan. So that's just me, though. Let me know in the comments what you think about all that. As always, I'm optimistic, feeling really pumped. What a time to be alive.